So the Biden administration is preparing to change course on its infrastructure deal if they are not able to gain bipartisan support. Now, the White House proposing a smaller $1.7 trillion bill on Friday. That is down from their initial $2.3 trillion proposal. But guess what they took out and what now they're thinking of putting in? Joining us now is Iowa Senator and GOP Conference Vice Chair Joni Ersnt. Senator, great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Is it true, Senator, that part of what they took out is what is really infrastructure? That is, they lowered the cost by taking out some of the real infrastructure.
Right, David. And this is a concern because when we talk to others across the United States, when we say the word infrastructure, they're thinking about roads, bridges, waterways,
Sure.
locks and dams, perhaps broadband expansion. But that's not what we're seeing happening right now. So, yes, we are negotiating. We want it to be a bipartisan bill. It should be bipartisan. But certainly $1.7 trillion, that's still a lot of money, and we need to focus on actual infrastructure.
Well, but I mean, it does seem like they're just saying the heck with Republicans, right? I mean, is there do you think that they are negotiating in good faith, or is the fact that they took out some of the real infrastructure indicate otherwise?
Well, what we have heard from a number of those Republicans that are directly negotiating with President Biden is that large in part he is agreeing with them. So we know that when they meet with President Biden, those meetings tend to go very well. When they're meeting with White House staff, those meetings don't go as well. So it makes you wonder,
doesn't the White House staff take their instructions from the president?
Well, that's what we're wondering. So we would love to continue negotiating. We do think it's important. We did in the last Congress pass a bipartisan surface transportation bill out of the EPW committee. I sit on that committee. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is now the ranking member. She is negotiating with the president. She has done a tremendous job at putting together actual infrastructure into a package that we think is workable. We're willing to negotiate, but we want to know that our taxpayer dollars are going for infrastructure, things that our citizens can count on.
Well, one thing I'm worried about my tax dollars going towards is this $1 trillion green bank. Can you tell us anything about this?
Well, there are a number of competing bills that are moving in Congress right now, but this particular green climate bank that is being proposed would be controlled entirely by Democrats. The board would be. And we think that it really is a slush fund that's inspired by the Green New Deal. $1 trillion American taxpayer dollars going to subsidize green climate justice type activities, again, with a board that's controlled entirely by DC Democrats. So we don't see this as being a good thing to do. And the goals of that would be to eliminate our fossil energy. But what this act does not do is actually reduce emissions. So again, it's just a slush fund for the Democrats and their climate justice initiatives, and probably not a good thing to do as we're trying to come out of an economic problem with the COVID pandemic.
And we're also we're constantly battling, let's face it, corruption in government. And I've covered a lot of state banks all over the world because this wouldn't be the first idea of a state bank, and they're always corrupt. Always. There hasn't been one country I visited. I've visited dozens and investigated dozens. One state bank that hasn't been embroiled in terrible corruption as a result of friends getting loans that they shouldn't have and so forth. So we could talk hours about that. But I also want to touch on the Wuhan lab and this incredible story in the Wall Street Journal. And there's more information coming out that suggests that, in fact, the lab was the source, at least the source of the infection of the world, if not the actual manipulated source of this virus. What are you doing about that?
Well, certainly, David. We can draw assumptions at this point in time that it was coming from this laboratory. But again, that's just an assumption. It's not anything that can be proven right now. But I am pushing back against that. We do not want American taxpayer dollars going to fund the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We actually had $600,000 through the NIH that went to the Wuhan lab that funded different types of experiments there. We need to stop that. We exposed that a little over a year ago. And what I have is what I call the COST Act, and that would put a price tag and transparency on any government-funded projects. So we think this is a good step forward. We should do this. Our taxpayers should know where their
forgive me for
dollars
interrupting,
go.
but are there any Democrats that agree with you that that's a good idea?
You know, there are a few Democrats that do agree with where we're going on this bill. I think they think it's a good idea. And of course, they also want to know that we're not funding these activities by Red China. So again, we can't say conclusively that the coronavirus came from this lab, but we can make those assumptions. We need to find that out. There are others that want to know as well, so we can prevent any sort of pandemic like this in the future.
Senator, very quickly, I always ask this question of a senator. Any move that you see to kill the filibuster or to pack the court, those issues that really could change America dramatically?
There is always that undercurrent, David. Unfortunately, yes, they're going to continue pushing for that. But we do have a few members in the Senate, those Democrats that are very strong. Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema, they are upholding the filibuster for now. They are not wanting to pack the court. So we need to continue to encourage them, stay strong, uphold the traditions of the Senate.
And you do have confidence that their backbone will remain just that, a strong backbone.
I pray every day, David.
Well, that's not the same as being sure, but prayer is good. Prayer, there are good precedents for prayer working.
That's right.
Senator, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Coming up
thank you,
next.
David.